In May 1944, a group of men sitting in a London office approved a message that would reposition two entire German panzer divisions. The message was brief, carefully worded, and completely false. It would be transmitted by radio to Berlin within hours. The men who approved it weren't generals or politicians. They were members of a committee that almost no one knew existed. And for 4 years, they had controlled every single piece of intelligence the Nazis received from inside Britain. Every spy report Hitler read from the United Kingdom crossed their desk first. Every assessment of British military strength, every piece of strategic analysis, every warning about Allied invasion plans came from sources they controlled. The Germans trusted these reports completely. They had no idea that the entire intelligence picture was fiction. And this was the XX Committee, and they approved every lie sent to Hitler. The committee's existence became possible because of a failure in German intelligence that Berlin never detected. Between 1940 and 1941, British counterintelligence identified and captured every single spy the Abwehr, German military intelligence, sent to the United Kingdom. Not most of them, all of them. Some were caught within hours of arrival. Others lasted weeks. But MOE5's surveillance network, code-breaking capabilities, and intelligence from turned agents created a dragnet that proved impossible to escape. The captured spies faced a simple choice: hang as enemy agents or cooperate with British intelligence. Most chose cooperation. A few were executed as examples. Their deaths kept quiet so German intelligence wouldn't suspect the capture rate. All the others became something more valuable than prisoners. They became channels for deception, and someone needed to control what information flowed through those channels. That's where the XX Committee came in. The name wasn't random bureaucratic designation. XX represented a double cross, the turning of enemy agents. The committee formed in January 1941 under the 20 committee name as cover, meeting weekly in MI5 offices. Members included representatives from MI5, MI6, military intelligence sections, and deception planning units. Oxford academic J.C. Masterman chaired most meetings, bringing scholarly precision to the business of systematic lying. The committee's function was straightforward but unprecedented. Review every message proposed to be sent by double agents. Ensure consistency across all agent networks. Coordinate deception with military strategy, and maintain the illusion that German intelligence operations in Britain were functioning. The agents would send real information mixed with falsehoods. The truth made the lies believable, and the committee decided the precise mixture. The system operated on a principle that intelligence agencies understand but rarely exploit so completely. Spies need to produce intelligence to maintain credibility with their handlers. German intelligence officers in Berlin and Madrid and Lisbon had careers dependent on their agents delivering useful information. So when reports came from Britain confirming what they expected or wanted to hear, they believed it. The XX Committee fed that belief carefully. Early messages contained accurate but harmless or already known information. Weather reports, the troop movements the Germans could verify through other sources. Industrial production figures close enough to truth. This built trust. Then the lies started small at first. Inflated estimates of military units, slightly wrong locations for divisions, reports of invasion preparations in Scotland instead of southern England. The Germans checked these reports against information from other sources, not knowing those sources were also controlled by the same committee. Everything confirmed everything else because the same group approved it all. Agent Garbo became the system's masterpiece. Juan Pujol Garcia, a Spanish citizen, actually volunteered to spy for Britain, but was initially rejected. He then approached the Germans, convinced them he'd gone to Britain, and started sending intelligence reports to Madrid fabricated from a Lisbon library using guidebooks and magazines. His information was wildly inaccurate but the Germans believed it. When British intelligence finally realized someone was inventing spy reports the Germans trusted, they recruited him properly and brought him to Britain in 1942. Under XX Committee control, Garbo built a fictional network of 27 sub-agents across Britain, each with detailed backstories. There was a Venezuelan living in Glasgow, a Welsh nationalist, a Portuguese clerk in the Ministry of Information. None existed. Garbo sent hundreds of messages, charging the Germans for each fictional agent's expenses. Berlin paid without question. The Abwehr awarded Garbo the Iron Cross for his intelligence work. He'd never set foot in Germany, and his entire network was fiction approved paragraph by paragraph by the committee. Operation Fortitude represented the committee's ultimate test. The Allies needed Germany to believe the D-Day landings would hit Pas-de-Calais, not Normandy, and to keep German divisions away from the actual beaches, even after the invasion began. The XX Committee orchestrated a deception campaign involving dozens of double agents, sending coordinated false intelligence. They created the fictional 1st United States Army Group, supposedly stationed in southeastern England under Patton's command, positioned perfectly for a Calais invasion. The agents reported seeing Fuseg units, movements, preparations. Physical deception teams built fake tanks and landing craft. German reconnaissance flights photographed the props. But the agent reports made it real in Berlin's assessment. In the weeks before June 6th, Garbo sent a message warning of an imminent invasion, but slightly too late for the Germans to react, sacrificing tactical advantage to preserve strategic deception. After the Normandy landings began, the committee's controlled agents reported this was a diversion, and the main assault would still hit Calais. Hitler believed it. He held panzer divisions in Pas-de-Calais for weeks, waiting for an invasion that would never come. Those tanks could have reached Normandy. They stayed north because the committee's lies were more convincing than the realities unfolding on French beaches. The deception nearly collapsed multiple times. Maintaining consistency across dozens of fake agents, sending hundreds of messages required meticulous record-keeping. One contradiction could unravel everything. The committee kept detailed files tracking every lie told, every fictional sub-agent's supposed location and activities, every piece of false intelligence. When one double agent reported a military unit in a location and another mentioned the same unit elsewhere, German intelligence might notice. The committee's coordination prevented those mistakes, but the complexity created risk. There were moments when German intelligence questioned reports. Agent Tricycle, Duško Popov, faced skepticism from his handlers. The committee had to carefully recalibrate his information to rebuild trust. Some agents were tested with questions designed to catch lies. The committee's deep knowledge of what the Germans already knew, gained through code breaking, allowed them to craft answers that passed scrutiny. The system worked because British intelligence could read German assessments of the intelligence they were feeding Germany, creating a closed loop where they watched Berlin believe their own lies. The consequences played out across strategic decisions that shaped the war. German reinforcements moved to wrong locations based on committee-approved reports. Defensive preparations focused on fabricated invasion threats. Hitler's personal assessments of British military strength and invasion timing relied on intelligence from compromised sources. Entire German divisions repositioned based on false agent reports about Allied strategy. The military cost was real. German soldiers deployed to defend against fictional threats while actual operations caught them mispositioned. The committee members knew their lies would contribute to deaths, are German and Allied. There's no record suggesting they struggled with this. The war demanded deception. Strategic lying saved Allied lives by misallocating German military resources, but the moral weight existed. Men in a London office approved messages that would send other men to wrong places to fight battles based on false premises. Some XX committee members were intelligence professionals accustomed to deception's necessities. Others were academics and military officers new to systematic lying at this scale. The committee minutes, later declassified, show clinical discussion of deception operations with little reflection on the human cost of the lies they approved. The deeper question is why German intelligence never discovered what had happened. The Abwehr had competent officers, code breakers, analysts, or they should have detected patterns suggesting compromise. Several factors protected the deception. First, the Germans broke Britain's spy networks in Europe, creating confidence they were winning the intelligence war. Second, cognitive bias made them interpret ambiguous information as confirming what they already believed. When agent reports suggested Allied weakness or predictable strategy, it matched German assumptions about British capabilities. Third, the sheer totality of the compromise meant there were no uncontrolled German agents sending contradictory information. Every source confirmed the lies because every source was controlled. Fourth, institutional momentum made reversing assessments difficult. Once German intelligence reported certain conclusions to military leadership, it admitting those conclusions relied on compromised sources would mean career-ending failure. Officers had incentive to believe their own agents were reliable. The psychology of deception worked both ways. The deceivers needed to maintain lies, but the deceived needed to maintain belief. Both sides were trapped in a system where the truth became harder to see the longer the deception continued. For 4 years, a small committee in London controlled what the most powerful military force in Europe believed about British defenses, military strength, and invasion planning. They approved every lie, calibrated every deception, and watched through intercepted communications as their fiction became Germany's strategic reality. When the war ended and the double agents stopped transmitting, German intelligence still didn't know what had happened. The XX Committee's existence remained classified until 1972, when J.C. Masterman published his account over government objections. The Germans who'd relied on those intelligence reports learned decades later that every source had been feeding them fiction. The entire intelligence picture was false. One committee had approved it all. The question that remains isn't whether such total deception could happen. It did. The question is whether it's happening now, whether some other committee in some other country is approving every lie sent to leadership that believes it's receiving truth. Intelligence services study the XX Committee's success. They know total compromise of an enemy's intelligence picture is possible. They know cognitive bias and institutional momentum protect deception. They know it can work for years without detection. So the real legacy isn't what the committee did to Hitler. It's the possibility that right now, someone's doing it to someone else. And the targets have no idea their entire understanding is fiction approved by people who know exactly what they're doing.